that. So it could be you have an abandonment concern, you have mistrust and abuse, you have emotional deprivation, which is deprivation of nurturance or deprivation of empathy and protection from your parents, defectiveness and shame about yourself, social isolation, dependence and incompetence, feeling like you're dependent on other people or incompetent, vulnerability to harm. So vulnerability to harm. So meaning like you always think that some catastrophe is about to happen, and so what we'll do is we'll do self-fulfilling prophecies. So we'll behave in a way that make those things that we fear come true. Enmeshment, which is a part of their whole like emotional incest with our parents have going on. That we have a schema of failure, that we're always going to fail. So then now if I don't do anything, I won't fail because I didn't try. Entitlements, entitled that people should obey and listen to me and do as I say. Grandiosity, thought processes. Insufficient self-control, that's those people that are very impulsive. They don't think nothing through. And then have this magical thinking that things are just going to work out because they believe it is. Subjugation. That's the person that's doormats, and I think like people confuse, like especially when it comes to the women and being obedient to their husband. Some think that being a woman in submission means subjugation. That's the same. I can submit and still be strong because at the end, I am someone who is supporting you, your goals and your dreams. So if I see you walking down a path that may be like, hey, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? And then if you go ahead, by all means, do that. But it doesn't mean subjugation where I walk all over you and you just have no point or no idea about what's going on. Then we have people who self-sacrifice. Oh, I love these people because they think that loyalty is the end all be all. Like, I'm going to stay in this relationship with you and be harmed in this relationship with you at the expense of myself to say that, look, hey, I'm worthy because I done sacrificed everything for you.
Wow. Say that again. Yeah. Say that again. Because there are a lot of women who think like that. Yeah. There are men who think like that, but I think that women, a lot of times, there are more women who will use loyalty, and of course this is unhealthy loyalty, to validate themselves. See, I was a loyal person. I gave up everything for you, right? And at the end of the day, they're left, claps in their hands with nothing in it, and it's just like, that's what you did to validate yourself?
Yep. And a lot of these things that people do, they don't even realize that they're doing it off trauma. They think like, oh, no, this is, my favorite line when I hear people say like, this is just the way I am. And I say, why? I would think something like, why? And they just look like, well, because why? You don't even know. So if you don't know, that tells me you're not consciously doing anything. You're just going off feelings and emotions and thought patterns that's already been long standing. Until you get to a point and say, I said that because when this happened, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z, then it's like, okay. So now, do you think that's right? Because you did that consciously. But a lot of us who are raised on survival and not on love, we're doing things over and over and over again. It just looks different in different ways. And then we wonder why we keep getting the same outcome.
So what do you mean, not to cut you off, what do you mean raised on survival and not raised on love? What's the difference between those two?
So being raised on survival is, so I had a teenage girl come in today, and she was talking about how she's mad at her mom because her mom still has her dad on child support, right? And I said, how do you know that? well there is using the child to get back at the other parent. That's not love. That is a manipulation of the child. And we do that. Instead of like, so with my sons, right, one of the things that I ask them, I say, hey, I love you, blah, blah, blah. Is there any way that I could be a better mother to you? And the reason why I ask them is not because like they've really got say over like how I'm going to be, but it's just that because they are their own person, it may be something that I'm doing to them that I'm unaware, that they could say, hey, Mom, I didn't like it when you were joking with me, and I'm going to just say hypothetically, you called me dumb. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was important to you. It wasn't intentional. But then you have people who are gaslight all of their lives, have narcissistic mothers and narcissistic fathers, and psychopathic and sociopathic
parents.
Who are abusing them in a way that their young mind doesn't understand. And so they start to develop all these schemas that I was just talking about self-sacrificing and approval seeking and being very pessimistic, or emotional inhibitions, unrelenting standards, and punitiveness. Like, you ever meet somebody that's just so pessimistic and punitive? You're like, do you even feel good at all ever? And I'm not saying that this world is meant for you to always just feel great, but if you can't have some sense of joy ever, there's a problem.
Right. Yeah.
There's a problem, especially if you're always hyper vigilant, thinking about how somebody's going to get you.
Right. How somebody's going to take advantage of you. So you're always in survival mode. You never know that there is another switch that you can turn on, because the only thing that you've ever known was survival mode.
Always.
So let me ask you, can you, like, during the sit down process, when men and women are having sit downs, are there signs that this person is going to be an abuser? Like, is there something that they might say, is something they might do that would be a red flag that you can recognize ahead of time that this person is going to be an abuser, whether male or female?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wish I could say yes completely, and I wish I could say no completely, but I can't. Only because, see, back then everybody knew each other, right? So you got to remember, with abuse and these kinds of trauma, they get passed from generation to generation to generation. So a lot of times our parents, grandparents, they know how Joe Blow is down the street.
Right.
Oh, that's what such. He likes to hit on this woman, or this person likes to. So, but now we're meeting people and we don't have no historical background.
Right. And especially in the Muslim community.
Yes.
There was a time even within the Muslim community where everybody knew everybody. And this was more so people who were born and raised Muslim. Their parents knew each other, first, second generation Muslims. Now when you start to get a lot of influx of converts that are coming into the community, and they're coming into the community from different walks of life. Some people taking Shahada in prison. Some people, leaving the club scene. Some people leaving the street scene. Some people, coming from college. People are converting to Islam from different walks of life and then just kind of integrating into the Muslim community, and there's no historical background on them other than what they tell you,
Yeah. Even abuse. Listen, even the president of the United States could be a narcissist, like, as we know. So it's like he can have the best job, she can have the best job, not have a job, stay home, do this, and you never know sometimes until you meet them. Right. However, there are times that you can see stuff is what they're saying lining up with their actions.
Give me an example. Give me an example of when what they're saying is not lining up with their actions.
So, like, for example, right, I met a guy who was like, every wife that I had, one of the things that they can say is that when they met me, I added value to their life, and I taught them how to read Arabic. I heard them read one day. and he sound like or
Okay, great example. Great example. I hope you sisters are listening to this one. This is a great one right here. He said every sister he was married to, he brought value to their life and he taught them Arabic. And you heard him recite the Quran one day or read some Arabic one day, and it just didn't line up. It's like if you were teaching them that Arabic, you might be ashamed to even say you taught them Arabic. Please don't ever say that to anybody else.
You can't hear daughter outcome correctly. I learned that back. I was like 16. And
Right.
I didn't even read Arabic. I just memorized it. And you, okay. All right. Sounds good. But the second part is every woman that you were married with, how many was that?
So we're not just going to skip right over that one. Hold up, back up. How many women were you married? Every woman I was married to, I brought value to their lives. Okay, so let's back that up a little bit. How many women were you actually married to? We're not just going to skip past that one.
Like, sir, okay, first of all, was you married to all four of them at the same time and then tried to marry the fifth one and then you realized they was listening to like, do you even know the rules?
Right. Somebody just posted, they said, if you can lie about a little thing, then there's nothing stopping you from fabricating your whole identity.
See, you know what the problem is, though? The problem is some people believe it.
And some people want to believe it. Mm-hmm. Here again, reenacting the trauma. There's some people, some women and men who want to believe the lie. We rather believe the lie because to believe the truth requires you to take action, and we're not ready to take action.
And then and one of the things that I think is always interesting is sometimes like women will be like, I didn't see the red flags, right? I didn't see them. Let me tell you, you saw them. You just chose to ignore. I'm a woman. I've done it. Okay. I married a whole brother who I saw all his porn on his phone, and I was like, no, he ain't gonna do that to me. He ain't gonna cheat on me. So he cheated on me. So we see it, but we'll believe we have this idea that we're somehow special.
Right.
But the thing we are being is special ed. That's it.
Yeah.
Because
Sister Zafirah, your phone is breaking up. I don't know what's going on, but you're going in and out.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm going.
Try to log off and then log back on. Some reason it's just. Okay. So we'll wait for her to join back on. But I want to reiterate. I want to reiterate what she said. She said that women sometimes, it's not that you didn't see the red flags. You saw the red flags. You just chose to ignore them. And she said that she was married to a brother, and during the sit-down process, she saw a lot of porn in his phone. I'm just kind of reiterating to them what you said, that she saw a lot of porn in his phone, and she thought to herself that, nah, he's not going to do that to me. When we get married, I'll be all that he needs. And lo and behold, he turns around and he does the same thing. And so while people like to say, I didn't see the red flags, you saw the red flags, you just chose to ignore them. Here again, sometimes the lie is easier to accept than the truth. The lie that we tell ourselves is easier to accept than the truth or the reality of the situation that is staring us right in our faces.
And we have to own that. The only way we can start choosing better is to own our own stuff. And one of the things I tell women, when I'm doing counseling with them is, if you meet a brother and you like real excited about him and y'all only met 1 or 2 times, trust me, your trauma mind bonded and solved whatever trauma that you like to fix.
Ooh. Whoa. You bonded with the very thing that you're looking for. So you tend to ignore everything else. Mm-hmm. Is that that's a real thing?
That's a real thing. People were like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And I was like, listen, if you struggle with, abandonment, and you meet somebody and be like, oh my goodness, like he seemed perfect, blah, 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 blah. But yet you always have to run after him and chase him around the community and blah, blah, blah. No, you got abandonment issues. And when you marry him, then all of it's going to come flooding out, because then you're going to start arguing with him about it and keep going, and then it's going to just be over and over and over again.
Wow. Okay, so what are some of the other red flags? Let's talk about red flags that brothers ignore. Red flags that brothers ignore that are going to turn out to be potential trauma, potential abuse later on in their marriage. What advice could you give the brothers?
For brothers, when you're looking for a wife, is women who, what do they call it nowadays? I don't know. I'll be staying up with lingo. I'm getting old. But some city girls, hot girl summer and stuff like that.
Okay.
You see the sister not covering properly. You marry her, and then be like, why are you not covering properly? She wasn't before then. And if she can't obey a law, then she's not going to obey you. Like,
ooh, stop. My goodness. Go back. Say that again.
If she can't obey a law, why would she obey you? Like, why?
Brothers, I hope you're listening.
I don't be understanding.
Well, I think it goes back to that mentality that many men had before Islam, is that, once you get with me, here again, I'm the exception to the rule. Once you get with me, all of that is going to change. And this is a huge mistake that a lot of men make, especially they think that their sexual intimacy is going to change things. Those days are over when you think that you can control someone through sex.
Yeah.
Those days are over. That was when sex was nouveau, when sex was a novelty. You can get sex anywhere at this point in time, and everybody has had it and not impressed by it. Nobody's impressed with sexual prowess anymore, And this whole idea that, when I get with this woman and, I'm really good in bed, and when I get her like this, she's going to obey my every command. She's going to do what I tell her to do. Even if that happens, it's very short-lived.
Yeah.
It's very short-lived.
Absolutely. Another advice because I think like that's the biggest one, because I've seen relationships take a nosedive because of our disobedience. And I know like women be like, well, he wasn't I don't care what he is or what he's not, because that's not who I'm not talking about that. Mm-hmm. Because you chose to marry him. That's what you chose to do. So as long as it's not going against the Quran and Sunnah, you need to fall in line, or you shouldn't have married.
Well, here again, the idea that I can tweak marriage to get it to be the way that I want it to be. But I want to go back to the point that you made for the brothers, and that is, if a woman is not doing something that you want her to do before you marry her, do not expect that she's going to do it after you marry her. That's false. You have false hopes, high expectations. If she's not doing it before you marry her, then you can expect that she's going to do it. She's not going to do it after you marry her. Now, provided that's not always the case, there are some women who are in the business of, self-refinement and, trying to do better for themselves. But a lot of times that only happens after some harsh experiences in their lives. They have some experiences, a near-death experience, a loss of a loved one, something traumatic happens in their life, and they make an intention, or they have, the desire to change that on their own. But they're not going to change that because that's what you want them to do.
The sad part about it is, Miss Grant, is that I don't even think that men who take wives who are uncovered or Christian or Jews or whatever they decided to do, I don't think that it necessarily always be a hidden agenda. Sometimes it's just be pure self-worth, not believing that they deserve better. And so they'll take something so that, like I had a guy say one time, I never forget it. He said, I want someone that's effed up so they don't know how effed up I am.
Wow.
That's what they said.
Wow.
I've heard brothers say, I want a loyal HOE. I'll hear women get into relationships like this and to appease them say stuff like, oh, I don't care if he cheats as long as he don't get another wife. Like, you do stuff outside of the realms of Islam and then expect something good to come from it.
Yep.
That'd be the biggest problem. Like, we always like to think that people be having hidden agendas, and people may be if they like abusive and trying to like get their own needs met. But a lot of people are just walking out here broken, and they have really no idea what they're doing, and they're just trying to fix.
Right, a quick fix. They're looking for a quick fix. Something to make them feel good, something to distract them from the pain of their own brokenness. And meanwhile, the only thing they're doing is perpetuating the brokenness of other people in the process. Yeah.
Because, and this is, and just so you can understand, like, why some things don't even, it just be on autopilot. Because when you have trauma in your history, right, your amygdala gets bigger. So that's your fight or freeze part of your brain. It gets bigger, and bigger. So you're just reacting, and the hippocampus starts to shrink. And that's the parts that, like, the hippocampus and the frontal lobe, they start to shrink. And so the ability to make sound decisions, good decisions, and recognize, it starts to disappear. And when you keep going through trauma, right, because you remember, you trauma reenacting, you keep going through it, so that means to keep shrinking. This keep getting bigger. Your sympathetic nervous system is all off whack. So you can't even self-regulate yourself when you start to experience extreme emotions. That's why you'll see somebody like, how did they just blow up that fast? Like, we were just having a conversation, and the next thing you know, guns is being fired. Because their sympathetic nervous system is just one trigger load away, because their frontal lobe can't regulate them and say, you're not in any danger.
Right. Wow, man. And these are the people that are, getting married.
Yes.
These people are getting married.
And having children.
And having children.
And having children. And having children. And having children. And then us as women, it just amazes me. Like, I've seen women, like, you know that man got, like, 10 kids with, like, 9 different women. Never been married to none of them except, like, one. That's who you want to... Oh, well, do you know how long it takes to get your sympathetic nervous system back on track, shrink your amygdala, make it big, you're a little bigger? It takes years.
Wow.
That takes years, because first you got to train your mind that you're not in danger.
And it takes years for somebody that, number one, is cognizant. That's number one. And number two, after you are cognizant, then you also have to carve out time to begin to work on putting yourself in that place. And with all of the distractions and hindrances and everything going on in our lives, man, you will be burying you and praying for tekbirat over you before you even had a chance to get yourself back into a mode where you're not in survival. So you spend your entire life on survival mode. And
And I
you
love
go
writing
ahead.
a book for therapy because I actually was reading another book called Things of the Heart, because I was reading this book called Heart Therapy, and it's talking about like, so when you're going through trauma, like it changes your heart too. So, like everything is changing about you, and a lot of us don't even know who we are. Have no idea. Just ask yourself, like, who am I? I bet you'll tell me stuff like, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm this. That's not who you are.
That's what you are. That's not who you are. That's
That's
that's the what. That's the what, not the who. Okay. So I have one more question because Ishad just came in, and I want to get one more question. Okay, so once a person has been through some abusive relationships, there are a lot of people who have been through abusive relationships. How do they begin to heal from abusive relationships? Both men and women. And I know that that's a huge one, but we want to get it, as much of it as we can.
Yes, first and foremost, stay single.
Okay, you started there. Why?
Don't get married, because what happens is you don't give your brain time to heal and like rest and say, "Ooh, that was a break. Like I need a break." And then on top of it, when you're in an abusive relationship, your brain is still on survival mode, so you're going to take that to the next relationship, and it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're going to behave in a way that makes whatever it is that you believe to happen to come true.
Wow. You need to write that down. My goodness.
Like, just for example, I had a girlfriend who had borderline personality disorder. And every relationship that she got in, they would eventually put their hands on her. And these men that she was with actually didn't even have a history of doing that. Yes, they didn't even have a history of doing that.
So you're saying that basically she contributed to, so it was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes. So one day, because she used to always say, like, I don't know why, like, they would do this to me, blah, blah, blah. But one day I caught her. One day I showed up at her house because I was in the neighborhood. And I hear all this noise. So I walk in because the door was unlocked. And she's a real light skin. And when I tell you, she had backed into the corner, face beat red, yelling at the top of her lung like a rabid dog. That's what she looked like. I was like, I would want to get you out of my face too. And not necessarily meaning that he should have done that, but when you are in fight flight mode, there's no expecting what a person can do when their amygdala is getting bigger, their frontal lobes and their visions is getting smaller.
Wow.
And so you should always stay single after some trauma. That's number one. Two, you have to think about, so what I start to do is start to help people to identify what is it within themselves that attracts stuff like this. So, because it's always about you. It's never about the other.
So you're saying that when a person, let me make sure that I'm understanding you correctly. So are you saying when a person is in an abusive relationship that there's part of that, they take a share of that because that is something that they find themselves attracted to?
Almost always. The only time I say that it may not be is if you think about the movie called with Jennifer Lopez when she wound up getting beat up by the cop. But even her staying good because he was a cop and he could find her and it was like hard to leave. That I understand. But we take a share in it because sometimes we feel like we don't deserve better. And so we stay. And we stay. And we stay. And so it just becomes a loop. And it becomes a loop. And then we get into another relationship and we do the same thing over again. Wow. And over again. That's that whole trauma enactment because we feel comfortable here.
It's safe. Somebody posted that it's safe and it's familiar. You can predict what's going to happen. Even though it's abusive, even though it's toxic, you can already predict that it's going to happen.
Yeah. And we'll do it over and over and over again because I remember I was talking, like, just for example, I had a guy who was like sexually abused as a kid, a Muslim brother, and he was saying that, you know, he looked at a video of himself and he saw like how like nervous and erratic he is. And so a lot of times is we can see stuff that we don't realize that we can see in other people. We can see them. We try to act like we can't, but we can.
Wow. SubhanAllah. All right.
The stress and all that kind of stuff. Like,
man, SubhanAllah.
A part of us feel comfortable and safe in abuse, and it's not until we build our self-worth and self-esteem that we can do anything different and have better relationships.
Well, alhamdulillah. All right. People are coming in for the salat, so we have to stop here. SubhanAllah. I pray that you continue this discussion with other speakers or by yourself. I'm sure there are a lot of people that are looking to get in touch with you. Please tell everybody where they can find you, how they can reach you, your website, you know, your social media platforms, where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can go onto my website, which is www.wfmmh.com. You can give me a call at 484-841-9558, or you can look me up on Facebook at Michelle Renee Davis, or you can just follow me on Instagram at Everyone's Favorite Therapist.
So on Instagram, Everyone's Favorite Therapist, Michelle Renee Davis on Facebook. Please reach out if you need help, seek help. You need advice, get advice, inshallah ta'ala. Get in the know, become more vigilant, more diligent about your own self and about your needs and you know, some of the things that you're struggling with. Self-care, self-help. This is all part of what we're doing here to try to get us to a better place, a better station, so that we can be better servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we can eliminate all of these distractions, whether within ourselves or the distractions that we attract as a result of our own toxicity. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, Sister Zafirah. This conversation, subhanAllah, could have continued until well into the night with this conversation. Very much important, and I pray that everyone benefited and took some advice from you, and inshallah ta'ala, this won't be the last time. All right,
can I just give one last advice?
Yes.
This is inshallah. I tell everyone, you have to learn how to trust everyone, and that may sound counterproductive. I'm telling you, it's going to free your mind of a lot of stuff. Trust the snake to be a snake. Trust the good man to be a good man. Trust the procrastinator. Just trust everybody to be who they are. You won't have to be hyper vigilant about what they may or may not do.
And in order for you to trust everybody to be who they are, you have to believe who people are when they show you who they are. When a person shows you who they are, in the words of Maya Angelou, believe them the first time. Why does a person have to keep doing it to you over and over again for the light bulb to go off for you to say, okay, now I see this person for who they are? When they do it the first time, that's who they are. That's who they are. All right. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama taslima kathira. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.